All right. Let's jump into this. You flagged this trend of young people
Yeah.
like not wanting to work, and it's a really fascinating thing, and a lot of people are concerned about it.
There are
And
people, yeah.
so we're going to dive deep into this today, looking at a bunch of your sources, including a book that translates roughly to Burnout, Why We Don't Want to Work by Popov. And
yeah.
we're going to look at a bunch of articles that explore this global phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where do we even begin?
It's really a fascinating collection of material that you've shared that really paints this global picture of this trend that's happening all across the world. From the lying flat movement in China to the NEETs, which stands for not in employment, education, or training across the globe, and also the more extreme social withdrawal that we see in Japan with ikikomori. It's just really makes you kind of wonder, what are the fundamental shifts that are at play here?
What's going on? So our mission today is to really get to the core of this. Like, what are the core reasons driving this?
Now, what's driving this disengagement?
And how does it manifest in these different ways that we're seeing?
How is this showing up?
And what are some potential paths forward?
What can we do about it?
What can we do about it? So we're going to look at everything from economic headwinds to changing societal values and the influence of technology.
All the different facets.
This is going to be really interesting.
The book that you highlighted really sets the stage, I think, by pointing to this widespread reluctance towards work among young people globally. And the foreword makes it really clear that this isn't a localized issue.
It's everywhere.
It's appearing in highly developed countries like Japan with their hikikomori and in South Korea where they talk about the 5 abandonment generations.
Brave abandonment generation.
Which are young people giving up on marriage. Giving up on dating. Giving up on buying a home. As well as the NEETs that we see in many Western nations, and of course the lying flat movement in China.
The lying flat thing is really interesting. It's described as kind of a response to a really challenging environment. Global health crises, international instability, declining birth rates, sky-high housing costs.
That make
it makes all
the traditional markers of success seem unattainable.
Impossible.
And, the book even makes this comparison to Taiwan in the 1980s.
It does. Where affordable housing and decent entry-level salaries meant that you could
buy a house.
Buy a house in your 20s.
You could own a house in your 20s.
So is lying flat just like a reaction to...
It's a good question.
Overwhelming obstacles.
It's a really good question. And the foreword actually emphasizes that. The book isn't intended as a judgment of this trend. Instead, it really aims to provide this comprehensive global perspective. And even incorporates data from Taiwan to really understand these underlying reasons for these evolving attitudes towards work.
So it's not judging. It's
not judging.
More like trying
to understand.
Understand it.
Okay, the preface of the book really hit hard with this idea of being stuck between not being able to stand up and not wanting to kneel down. Which is a really powerful...
That's a powerful image.
And the fact that the World Health Organization...
the
WHO officially recognized work burnout as a medical condition back in 2019 underscores that this is
serious.
This is serious.
This isn't just like, I had a bad day at work.
Exactly.
Or, a long week. This is a much deeper issue. And this recognition by the WHO really raises the question of, what about the structures we've created? Are they contributing to this? And the preface argues that, we need to look at these systemic issues. Like outdated education systems. Skewed patterns of economic growth, significant wealth inequality, inadequate social safety nets. as key contributing factors to this widespread burnout.
So it's not just the individual.
It's not just the individual. It's the whole.
It's the system.
Okay, and it suggests that this starts impacting individuals, right, from that transition from education.
Yeah, that transition.
Into the workforce.
Into the world of work is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This idea of diploma deflation.
Diploma deflation.
You're really interested?
It's such an interesting idea.
Yeah. Whereas more and more people get higher degrees.
Get more and more education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those qualifications become worth less.
Yeah.
And they give these examples.
There's those examples of PhD graduates.
PhD graduates becoming high school teachers.
Having to become high school teachers.
Yeah.
And top graduates.
Top graduates selling pork.
Selling pork, yeah.
So it makes you wonder if
It makes you wonder if, like, you know, that traditional value of higher education is really changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then
we think about...
What about the job market?
The job market.
The job market itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The preface highlights how the nature of work is evolving so rapidly.
Yeah.
You know, the rise of automation, the platform economy with its often demanding 996 culture.
The 996.
Yeah, working 9 to 9.
Wow.
6 days a week.
6 days a week.
Yeah, are really significant factors.
Yeah.
And the preface even points out
that
having the opportunity to work overtime is now seen by some as a status symbol. Which is a really...
They might brag about working overtime.
It's kind of a bragging, right?
Wow.
Which could indicate a really unhealthy relationship with work in certain sectors.
And then you have the people born after 2000.
Yeah, the Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z.
The preface suggests that, you know, increased overall affluence in some societies means that work isn't necessarily seen as the only path.
Like they don't have to work.
Like, they don't have to work.
Yeah.
Leading to the growing popularity of gap years.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So they're taking gap years.
They're taking gap years.
Yeah.
But it also notes this shift in what those gap years entail.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's no longer
moving away from
volunteer work.
Yeah, volunteer work and more towards
it's like fun stuff.
Leisure and travel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it seems like the priorities might be changing for this generation.
So their priorities are different.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And this idea that...
And this connects to this broader shift in values.
Oh, okay.
You know, the preface touches on how traditional work ethics are being challenged by this rise of consumerism and the internet. You know, like we're constantly being bombarded with,
Look at this.
Buy this, buy that. You need this. Yeah. Yeah.
So it suggests that not working is even viewed as a sign of financial freedom.
So it's like a status symbol.
And open-mindedness.
To not work.
To not work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So the very definition and the ethical framework around work seems to be in flux.
So like work is
changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's interesting too.
It's also interesting how the boundaries between our professional and personal lives are becoming increasingly blurred.
Totally.
Especially with the rise of...
Especially with influencers.
And YouTubers. And, you know, all this stuff.
And the trend of like shorter job tenures.
Shorter job tenures.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not staying in...
You're not staying at one company for your whole life.
Yeah, for your whole life.
Yeah.
So work isn't this central pillar of identity.
Like it used to be.
That it once was.
Yeah, yeah.
So all this is...
This raises this question of like, what about the traditional... that traditional advice, working hard.
Hard work.
And you'll get ahead.
Yeah.
And perseverance.
Stick to curativeness.
Yeah. The preface notes how those long-held beliefs about hard work and unwavering dedication might ring a little hollow. Like it's...
Digital, consumer-driven world where it's all about
consuming. Yeah.
So and then
but there's this
image
that it paints
of us spending
the majority of our
so much time in front of screens.
Lives in front of screens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's
like even if
at a desk.
Yeah, even if you don't work in an office.
Or at home.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It even wonders what future generations will make of this.
Yeah. Like will they look back and be like,
and think we were crazy.
What are they doing? Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and then this point about hard work isn't always equal financial security.
Yeah.
And they give these examples.
They give examples of,
Americans
having
multiple jobs.
Work multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And the instability of gig work in Japan.
Yeah. So it's not even guaranteed.
It's not a guarantee.
But if you work hard.
You're set.
Yeah. So.
And then finally, the preface brings up this really important point about this mismatch between trying to fit people into the needs of machines versus the other way around.
Yeah. Designing the machines.
Yeah.
Around people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that feeling of being. Disconnected from work.
The meaning of your work.
Yeah, the meaning of your work.
Yeah.
Due to.
Specialization.
Yeah, specialization.
And automation.
Yeah. It's presented as this really significant driver of anxiety, depression, and burnout.
And they say like the self-help industry.
Oh, yeah. The rise of as an indicator.
The self-help industry. It's like we're all just searching.
Like we're all searching for
meaning.
Yeah. Okay, so let's delve deeper into these trends by examining some of the case studies.
Okay, let's do it.
That you brought to the table.
Yeah.
So the first one is this really interesting story of Che Guevara.
Oh, yeah, Che Guevara.
Or Guevara the Thief.
Guevara the Thief.
I love that.
So after being apprehended for stealing electric bikes, he famously declared, "It's impossible to work. It's impossible to work in this lifetime."
I love that quote.
Yeah. What struck you most about like how this statement really resonated with people?
Yeah. It's almost like paradoxical.
It is.
Right. Here's somebody who's involved in petty crime.
Yeah.
But this nonchalant dismissal of work just like exploded online.
Yeah. It's like went viral.
It went viral. Yeah. And
his words just like really captured something for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's just this air of
this danding, like this.
Like this
composure.
This calm composure.
Yeah.
And his image, even his hairstyle, was likened to Che Guevara.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of added to this
like anti-establishment
persona.
Yeah, he became like an internet meme.
Yeah, he became a meme.
A symbol of this lying flat.
A symbol of lying flat, yeah.
Yeah, especially on platforms like Bilibili.
Yeah, on Bilibili.
And online forums like Baidu's Quit Gambling Bar.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating how a criminal act
could
become this like rallying cry.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to this underlying current of dissatisfaction.
Yeah. Like people.
While there were certainly criticisms of like, glorifying criminal behavior.
Yeah.
For many, it seemed to function as this form of
social satire.
Yeah, social satire.
Yeah.
Like a way to express frustration with mainstream culture.
Yeah.
And a feeling of being unheard or unseen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next
one.
Case study.
Yeah. The Sanhei Great Gods.
Oh, yeah. The Sanhei Great Gods in Shenzhen.
In Shenzhen, yeah.
Okay, so this is a little different.
This is a little bit different.
Right. It's less about
rejecting work.
Philosophical rejection of work.
Yeah, and more about this minimal survival strategy.
Yeah.
They really prioritize these daily paid short-term jobs.
Yeah.
It's like high salary.
Like gig work.
Quick money, day-by-day settlement.
Yeah.
To support this very basic lifestyle.
Okay.
Of like work 1 day, rest 3 days.
What does this tell us about like the work that's available?
It illustrates how segments of the young workforce are struggling to find stable and meaningful employment.
Yeah.
In the face of
rapid economic growth.
Yeah, this rapid economic development.
So like the economy's growing.
Yeah.
But they're not finding...
But there's no jobs.
Yeah. And a lot of them have worked.
And many of them have worked.
Like... Demanding factory jobs. Like Foxconn.
Like at Foxconn, yeah.
Yeah.
But they found the hours and the pressure...
Too much.
Just unsustainable.
And so their focus is on like...
Their focus is on these immediate needs.
Yeah.
Like cheap accommodation, instant food, internet access.
Okay, so...
It really highlights...
Just getting by.
This precarious existence.
Yeah.
And this prioritization of short-term autonomy.
Okay.
Over long-term...
They don't want to...
career building.
Be tied down.
Yeah.
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 And they developed this online community, the Sanhea Great God Network.
Sanhea Great God Network. Yeah. And they document.
For sharing their stories.
They share their stories.
And like analyzing.
They even analyze their own motivations and their psychology.
Psychology, yeah. And then people like Leatherpants Brother and Sister Hong
became these like legendary figures.
Yeah, but as you said,
this lifestyle comes with significant vulnerabilities like predatory lending.
And
online gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there have been government crackdowns.
There have been government crackdowns.
Which disperse this community.
You disperse the community.
Yeah.
So it's unclear what happened.
Future
them.
Uncertain.
Yeah. And it really underscores the precariousness of relying on this short-term informal work.
Yeah.
While it might offer this temporary escape from the pressures of traditional employment.
Yeah.
The lack of stability, social safety nets, opportunities for skill development, really raises concerns about
their future,
long-term well-being, and economic mobility. For these individuals.
So let's move to South Korea.
Oh, South Korea.
The global success of that movie, Parasite.
Really seemed to
tapped into this feeling.
Tap into that feeling.
Wealth inequality. And the struggles of the working class.
Yeah, and the struggles.
Yeah, and in South Korea itself, there's this issue.
There's this big issue of highly educated young people facing high rates of unemployment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Contributing to
what's going on?
The rise of needs.
In South Korea.
Yeah. So South Korea is interesting because they have a very high rate of university attendance.
Like almost everybody.
Like 70% of
goes to university.
Young people pursue higher education.
70%.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the job market.
There's not enough jobs.
For everybody.
All these graduates in desirable positions.
Yeah, and so it creates...
So it creates this intense competition.
It's competition.
Yeah.
And it leads to that diploma deflation.
And diploma deflation that we talked about.
Yeah. So they're all...
So you have all these super qualified...
highly qualified people.
Yeah.
Feeling frustrated.
Yeah.
And underemployed.
Okay.
And the increasing numbers of young people applying for
unemployment benefits,
especially during the pandemic,
further
highlights
the scale of
the problem.
And this neat lifestyle in South Korea.
Yeah, the neat lifestyle.
Yeah, often like exemplified by these vloggers.
Yeah, like Midji.
Medjia.
Yeah,
seems to revolve around this idea of
avoiding work,
and
just staying at home,
often
financially supported
by their parents. These parasite singles.
The so-called parasite singles.
Yeah, so it's like they just don't see...
Yeah, they don't see
the point
of working.
Yeah.
Because they're like,
no.
Why bother?
Yeah.
There's this pervasive feeling of...
limited upward mobility.
Yeah, limited upward mobility.
Yeah, they can't get ahead.
No matter how hard.
No matter what.
I try.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, so
it makes...
So they don't even try.
Yeah, they just don't even try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and this perception of...
this class solidification.
Yeah,
where it's like you're born into a certain class.
And you're going to stay there.
Yeah. No matter what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
it's a huge issue.
It's the huge issue.
In South Korea. Yeah. And this tendency for young Koreans... to wait for these like coveted jobs.
Yeah, those coveted jobs.
In large corporations.
Or big corporations with benefits.
Yeah, with benefits.
Yeah.
Coupled with companies increasing preference for
and preferring
non-regular workers. Yeah. These non-regular workers.
Yeah. Like almost like gig workers.
Yeah, like gig workers.
Yeah.
Makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a huge...
That's a huge problem in South Korea. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just in Asia, though.
It's not just in Asia.
Australia and France
also face significant
numbers of needs.
Yeah. And in Australia, despite having a relatively strong economy.
Despite having a pretty strong economy, there's this notable segment of young people who